The football graveyard is full of favorites, said Renato Paiva, the head coach of Botafogo, right before they defeated the clear favorites and Champions League winners, PSG. And that right there is one of the most badass moments in football history. Like, if you were to make a movie about that and you would have to pick an actor, it would be Clint Eastwood playing that role and just saying that with a cigarette in his mouth. But it's not just that. The Brazilian clubs have stunned the world in the first two rounds of the Club World Cup group stage. From Palmeiras fans taking over New York, wins on the field, Flamengo lighting up Chelsea, Fluminense dominating Borussia Dortmund. I have been talking about the rise of the Brazilian league for quite some time. And today, I want to brag about it. Hello. If you're new here, I'm Filippo and welcome to Chapéu Football, where you will find the best coverage of Brazilian football in English on YouTube. And Brazilian clubs have been outstanding. Of course, there's still a lot to happen in the Club World Cup, for the better or for the worse, and I hope this video doesn't jinx the clubs and they start losing left and right. But so far, they have been incredible. And 5 to 6 months ago, we made a video. It was one of our very first videos where I talked about how much better the Brazilian league is and why. You should probably go check that out. Now, at the time, I was called a madman, but here we are, and I was right. So today I want to talk about the 4 clubs that are in the Club World Cup right now. Palmeiras, Flamengo, Fluminense, and Botafogo. What has happened so far? Essentially a quick recap, and at the end of the video, I'm going to give you my takes and final thoughts on these first 2 games that each team played. Now let me know if you want us to do a Club World Cup knockout rounds prediction video for the round of 16. Drop a like in this video because this helps the channel quite a bit, along with subscribing to it. And let me know in the comment section down below, do you think it's possible that any of the 4 clubs from Brazil could win this Club World Cup? Palmeiras, Flamengo, Fluminense, Botafogo? Let me know in the comment section down below. With that said, let's begin. Okay, why don't we begin with Palmeiras, the biggest, the greatest club in South America. So Palmeiras started to get everyone's attention due to their fans. They invaded the Times Square in New York City, then they invaded a New Jersey mall, and lastly, they put on a show in the MetLife Stadium for both of the games that they played so far. First, Palmeiras started off with a dominant 0-0 draw with Porto, where Palmeiras simply couldn't finish. And I know it's funny to say dominant 0-0 draw, but Palmeiras could have easily won 2-3-0 if their forwards were not stormtroopers. They just couldn't score. They couldn't hit the target, or if they did hit the target, they would hit right at the goalkeeper or right at the defender. Palmeiras smashed, destroyed Porto. There were a lot of excuses from the European fans. We'll talk about that later in the video. But Palmeiras should have easily won that game. Now, the second one, Palmeiras got a big 2-0 win over Al Ahly, the biggest team, the best team in Africa. The first half was shaky because Abel Ferreira decided to go full-on soccer terrorist. He didn't go all in to defeat the opponent, but he made the right adjustments in the second half, removing Rafael Veiga, putting in Mauricio, getting Flaco Lopes in for Vitor Roque that can't finish, and Palmeiras got a 2-0 win, a very comfortable 2-0 win that could have been also 3 or 4. So 1 draw, 1 win, should have been 2 wins against 2 very tough opponents. So essentially Palmeiras had 2 games with 1 win, 1 draw, 2 goals scored, and none conceded. And I guess plenty of goals wasted. Palmeiras probably should have had 4 to 5 goals in the group stage so far. And right now, they lead Group A with Inter Miami in second. And Palmeiras plays Messi and Inter Miami for the last round this Monday of the group stage, where they are expected to win and advance in first place. But you know what? I kind of learned to never underestimate Lionel Messi. So hopefully Palmeiras does defeat Inter Miami, but I will not underestimate Messi. Next up, we're going to talk about Botafogo, a team that is more unstable and unpredictable than a teenager going through puberty. And Botafogo started off by winning a 2-1 victory against the Seattle Sounders, and it was a Libertadores-style grinding result. Again, they were playing a not so good team, and Botafogo actually got outplayed. And listen, the first half Botafogo got a 2-0 lead, and it wasn't because they were dominant, they were just effective. In the second half, Seattle completely outplayed Botafogo, which was embarrassing. And if Seattle could finish, they actually probably would have won this game, or at least tied it. Regardless, Botafogo found a way to win, but it was a very underwhelming start to the Club World Cup. A good result, they got the win, kind of good result. They probably should have done better with the goal differential, but it was a garbage performance. But a win is a win. So after that very bad performance and win, Botafogo was essentially hoping they wouldn't get destroyed by PSG in the second game. Not even the most optimistic Botafogo fans out there thought a win would be possible, which, to be fair, Botafogo fans are pretty damn pessimistic. They're actually the most pessimistic fan base I have ever seen in my life. But you know what? Botafogo actually pulled it off. They got a 1-0 win against the almighty PSG and Champions League winners. Botafogo went full Libertadores mode, which means win by all means necessary, and they were simply incredible defensively. A true tactical masterclass from Renato Paiva, an effort from the players. The goal was pretty clear, to hold a 0-0 draw, but in the 36th minute, Igor Jesus hit PSG with a massive Kamehameha, with the help of Goku probably. And then he got Botafogo the 1-0 lead, and ultimately that led to the 1-0 victory. Now, was the goal lucky? Yes, it was lucky, but you need to put yourself in a position to get lucky, and Botafogo did that. They held PSG to a 1xG, a 1 expected goal. That is very tough, and they got the goal. So what matters is Botafogo did get the 1-0 win, fair and square. They weren't completely dominated. It's not like PSG was creating chances left and right. Botafogo defended very well, and it was a fair win. And right now, Botafogo leads the group with 6 points in 2 games, with 1 more game to play where they will face Atletico Madrid. And Luis Enrique, the coach of PSG, even said after the game that Botafogo was the team that defended PSG the best throughout the entire season, including their Champions League title run and Liga, the French league. As I said before, Brazilian clubs are used to the Libertadores. They know how to grind out results, they know how to adapt, and just essentially do what's needed to get the minimal result to advance. Now, real quick, before we continue, because every time a Brazilian club or any club pulls a result against a European club, they have a bunch of excuses. So I kind of want to debunk their excuses. It's the weather or the calendar, that they're tired because they had a long season. Listen to this. Botafogo has played 62 games from August till now. PSG has played 60. Plus, the clubs in Brazil, they travel much longer distances than the European clubs. All 4 Brazilian clubs that came into the Club World Cup, they have more games over the past 12 months than any other team. Plus, what I already said, the longer travel distances. Europeans need to stop with the excuses that it's the end of the season and the weather and the teams don't care and this and that. It's honestly embarrassing. And if the teams didn't care about this tournament, then you probably should have just stayed home and avoided the embarrassment of the results that we're seeing. I'll talk more about that towards the end of the video. The fact of the matter is, the teams do care. It's just that the gap between the top South American teams and the European teams is not as big as they thought. It kind of reminds me of when Europeans just randomly hate on Neymar for no reason, which, by the way, we made a video about the true legacy of Neymar. That video was released last week, so if you missed that out, go check it, okay? It's the last video we released prior to this one. The truth about Neymar's legacy. Now let's talk about Flamengo. Okay, and if you made it this far in the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Okay, so Flamengo, the second biggest team in Brazil, but the largest fan base. The first game they faced Esperance from Tunisia, I guess that's how you say it, and Flamengo was just a better side. They got a 2-0 win. Arrascaeta is incredible. The team is very strong. And there's not much more to say there, right? They simply dominated and got the 2-0 win. And then they went to their second game against Chelsea, which was a day after PSG was defeated by Botafogo. That gave Flamengo the confidence to go after Chelsea, go straight into them to get the win. And get the win, they did. Game 2 was their big test, the first big test, where Flamengo would go on to face Chelsea, that finished 4th place in the English Premier League this season. That is allegedly the best league in the world. And you know what? Chelsea got the lead with a mistake from Wesley, the right back from Flamengo. But after that, Flamengo completely outplayed Chelsea. And even when Nicholas Jackson got a red card, Flamengo already had a 2-1 lead and was completely dominating the game. So even if Jackson didn't get the red card, I'm pretty certain that Flamengo would have won. It was a masterclass from Felipe Luis, their coach, which, by the way, he even benched Pedro and Leo Ortiz, 2 Brazilian national team players, and he still got the win against Chelsea. After the game, Felipe Luis even said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that there are like a top 8 or 10 teams in Europe that are tier 1, the top European teams. Then when you go to tier 2, which I think would be like Benfica, Porto, Chelsea, the top South American teams are at the same level or better. And I fully agree with that, right? There's like 4 to 5 teams in Europe, in my opinion, which would be like Bayern, PSG, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Liverpool, Man City, like I guess 6 or 7, something like that are definitely ahead of the top Brazilian clubs. Not by too much. I think the top Brazilian clubs can compete with them, as Botafogo showed us against PSG, but they're better. Now the tier 2 teams, which would be like Chelsea, Atletico Madrid, Benfica, honestly, even Arsenal, those teams, I think the Brazilian clubs are right there. They can match up and they can defeat them. And I mean, they've been showing this in the Club World Cup. Now about Flamengo, this is a very streaky team. If you let Flamengo catch fire throughout a game or a tournament, they will eat you alive. And that's what Chelsea saw in this game. And the same thing goes for any team in the Club World Cup. If you let Flamengo catch fire and believe they can smash you, they will beat the living crap out of you. It's a streaky team. So you got to be careful with Flamengo. With that said, Flamengo leads the group with 6 points in 2 games, complete dominance so far, and they will play LAFC, that apparently is already eliminated, in the last round of the group stage. Last but not least, we have Fluminense, the tricolor from Rio de Janeiro. Okay, so Fluminense started off their campaign with a 0-0 draw against Borussia Dortmund, where they actually completely outplayed Dortmund, one of the biggest clubs in Germany. And now, Dortmund, to be fair, was pretty crap this year in the Bundesliga. Regardless, Fluminense almost got relegated in the Brazilian league last year. But anyhow, Fluminense should have defeated Dortmund. They didn't. The game ended 0-0, and that actually shocked the international media as they were talking about this game quite a bit, about how well Fluminense played. They play beautiful soccer, and that's what we saw. Even though I don't think their coach is really good, Renato Gaúcho. I know some people like him, but I don't really rate him. I think Felipe Luis, Renato Paiva, and Abel Ferreira are levels ahead of Renato. Regardless, Fluminense completely outplayed Dortmund, and it was unfortunate that they didn't get the win. It was something similar to the Palmeiras versus Porto game. Now for the second game, they played Ulsan from South Korea. It was an easier opponent, and we expected a win. The problem again is Brazilian coaches. Renato Gaúcho, or Renate, is a pure Brazilian coach, an old school, not like Felipe Luis, that's more modern. The back line for Fluminense was a mess, despite Thiago Silva. They got a 1-0 lead and they were dominating Ulsan, but then they got some very nasty goals scored against them. By nasty, I mean pure defensive mistakes. One on the counterattack and the other one's a cross. Terrible defending from Fluminense. The team looked completely disorganized in that back line, even though they have Thiago Silva back there. That is why coaching matters. And with that back line, I don't see Fluminense going very far in this tournament. They will lose to the first competent team they face in the knockout rounds. Regardless, they got a 4-2 win. They completely outplayed Ulsan. Now they have 4 points. And I want to give a shout out to John Arias. This guy is an incredible player. Seriously, he's probably one of the best wingers in this tournament. He might even be the best winger in Brazil. He might be even more effective than Estevão right now for Palmeiras. John Arias is carrying Fluminense's offense with other guys helping him here and there, right? Canu was really good off the bench, but John Arias is one heck of a winger. He's Colombian, plays for the Colombian national team. He is simply incredible. So Fluminense heads to the last round of the group stage with 4 points, leading their group, where they will face the team from South Africa. That is no joke. It's going to be a very tough matchup. All right, best part of the video. What are my final thoughts and conclusions from what has happened so far at the Brazilian clubs in the Club World Cup? So they have played 8 games so far with 6 wins and 2 draws, while facing some heavy hitters from Europe. It's the best performing country and league in the Club World Cup. All Brazilian clubs currently lead their groups coming into the last round of the group stage. Palmeiras versus Porto, Fluminense versus Dortmund, that opened the eyes of Brazilian clubs to the fact that they can actually face the European clubs and not just defend for their lives. They can actually attack them. Botafogo beating PSG, that opened the door. And then Flamengo came in guns blazing against Chelsea to make a statement. Brazilian clubs can beat the Europeans on any given day. Will it always happen? No. Can it happen quite often? Absolutely. The excuses from Europeans are silly. These are competitive matches, but let's not overreact. Anything can happen in a one-off game. We see teams from lower divisions in Europe defeat top teams very often. Now, the top European clubs are still better than the top Brazilian clubs, but quite noticeably, the gap is a lot smaller than many think. What happens nowadays is a lot of kids, they play FIFA or EAFC, whatever the game is called these days. And the level of the top teams that are more marketable in those video games is much higher than a team that's not marketable. God, the Brazilian clubs are not even in that game these days. So what happens is that makes some of them, the teenagers, the kids, or even some grown adults at age 20, think that the gap between these top clubs that are a bunch of humans playing against humans is huge. It's not that big. Even PSG against the top Brazilian clubs, the gap is not that big. Like, PSG is better. That's not debatable. Man City is better. Bayern is better. But the gap is not like the FIFA video game. It's more like this, right? So if they play 10 times, the Brazilian club might win 2 or 3, not 1 or 0. I also want to say that the Brazilian league is a top 5 league in the world. Remove PSG and France is most certainly worse. I'm sorry you may disagree, but in my opinion, it's pretty evident. And I know this may bother many, right? Because they're going to say, how can a non-European league be a top 5 league in the world? The Brazilian league is the 5th best soccer league in the world, or football league, whatever you want to call it. I know some of you hate the S word. I also want to say that Brazilian clubs know how to grind out wins. They have the Libertadores experience. The Libertadores is tough. Top European clubs, if they played, they would be the favorites to win it. But trust me, they would not win every edition. Just start watching the Copa Libertadores. It's a grind. It's a battle. It's a war. You can bring the best teams in Europe. They wouldn't win every single edition. Now, the other thing that's off the field, Brazilian fans are very passionate. They're incredible. But you already knew that. They're traveling and they're making this Club World Cup special, along with other fans, of course, but the Brazilian fans have been fantastic. Brazilians should be proud. Their clubs are back on the spotlight, and hopefully they keep it going till the very end of the Club World Cup. This is also a massive opportunity to market Brazilian football and the Brazilian league and the Brazilian clubs to the world. Something CBF, the federation that is very incompetent, has failed to do so over the years. I want to thank you all very much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like before you go and let us know in the comment section. Out of the 4 Brazilian clubs, which one has the highest odds of winning the Club World Cup? Do you think any of them can actually win the Club World Cup here in the United States of America? Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.